Hello, everyone. It's your friend, the Night Walker, and let's see if we can try to wrap this up. Okay, I think I've gone on too long about this as it is. It's just I have so many points that I wanted to make. And first of all, before we get back into it, I just wanted to backtrack and talk about the haunting of Sharon Tate. Now, I already explained in the previous video why this movie didn't work. Is basically you're taking the whole situation and fictionalizing the whole thing and making a basically, like I said, just basically in so many words, turning it into a slasher movie. You're doing this revisionist history where ultimately it's just, at the end of the movie, it's just, a big so what, nothing changes. The outcome remains the same. And I think really, if you were going to do that, if you're going to do a movie about the haunting of Sharon Tate, you know what probably might have been a better idea. And I think this might have worked better. This is just my personal opinion. But you know what I think really would have worked better? I think if you now, like I said before in the previous video, there's a story about Sharon Tate that she had a I don't know, did I think that's the reason why I'm talking about it now. I don't know if I went into it on the last video. But see, here's the thing. I think a lot of people when they go into a movie called The Haunting of Sharon Tate, see, you have a lot of ghost story enthusiasts and you have people who are interested in tales of the supernatural and the macabre and things like that. And, they got zillions of videos on here. You can watch them on YouTube and stuff too. But one of the most famous Hollywood ghost stories is that Sharon Tate actually had a premonition of her own death. Now, go back to years before she met Roman Polanski and before they got married, she was with Jay Sebring. They were getting engaged. They were going to be married. Well, Jay Sebring lived in a house owned by Paul Byrne, who was a movie producer, and he was with Jane Harlow, and he was very upset and everything else. Well, apparently, they separated, and he couldn't handle it, I guess, and he committed suicide. And that was the thing, it's like, well, now that I think about it, it's like, sorry, backtrack on that too. Some people believe it was suicide. Some people think maybe not so much. There's some conspiracy theories going on about that. But, the thing is, though, is that when Jay and Sharon were together, at one point, Jay was out of the house one night, and Sharon, she was in bed asleep. And she woke up, it was, pretty much about middle of the night, and she sees, this man walking in the room. And it was a man that, she later learned pretty much was Paul Byrne, and that his ghost was haunting the property. Well, Sharon, obviously, she's alone. She's, very upset and scared, as anybody would be, to see a ghostly apparition walking around your house. Yeah, you'd be pretty frightened by that too. So, she gets up, gets out of bed, and she goes downstairs, and she sees tied to the banister a woman tied up with rope. Her throat is cut and she's basically covered in blood. And this, everybody said this is pretty much Sharon Tate having a premonition of her own death, which, and then she was haunted by this. She went to the bar. She made herself a drink. Even to this day, I believe there was like a little piece on the bar where she chipped away some of the wallpaper. But she got herself a drink. She was able to calm down. No more, experiences that night, and she was able to, finally go back to bed and get some sleep. Well, then obviously, a couple of years later, then the murders happened. So everybody said, that she had a premonition that she was going to die, and she was going to die a very bad death and everything else. And that was kind of letting her know what was going to be something that was too akin to the fact of what was going to be in store for her. Now, that's the thing. Now, if you're going to make a movie called The Haunting of Sharon Tate, maybe that's what a lot of people were going in expecting. Maybe they were going in hoping that this movie would kind of, elaborate on that whole situation. Like, when she had, this vision and things like that, maybe they might have found out, like, maybe there were some other little things that kind of gave her hints or something, like people years later might have discovered that, that kind of, was foreshadowing the unfortunate events that was going to happen to Sharon Tate. And I feel so bad for her. I feel bad for all of the victims. And like I said, and this brings me to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, is that, the movie, this is like, like what I said in the previous video, usually like whenever somebody's going to make a movie about Manson or whatever, it's always about, making a movie from Manson and his followers' point of view. It's not about Sharon Tate or, Jay Sebring or Abigail Folger or any of these people. They just happen to be the people who got killed. And ultimately, that's it. They're reduced to victims. They're a body count and nothing more. Sharon Tate is only known because, she's the actress of that famous director who got killed. And over time, that's how so many people basically end up describing her. And that's the horrible part is, she does it, people don't really get any kind of sense of who Sharon Tate really was. Now, here was the thing, it's like, even though like Sharon Tate was not the complete focus of the movie of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, she does play a huge part in it. She plays an intricate part of it. Her presence really impacts the movie. People have said this before, but it's true. She is a very valid, she is very much a main character, even in the scene she's not in. She's very much a main character in this movie. And what this movie does is, like I said in the previous video, is that with the exception of the outcome, there is a lot, Quentin Tarantino did a lot of fact checking before he, wrote his movie. And, I know there are some certain things that he, took liberties on and things like that. But for the most part, he did a lot of fact checking. He went to Scott Michaels, Scott Michaels runs Dearly Departed Tours in LA. And he's very much an expert on, just about all things, pertaining to the Manson family and the murders and stuff. So Quentin Tarantino did his research and he found out like, okay, like for example, like the night of the murders, they went to the El Coyote restaurant to have dinner. And these are facts that, if you watch, like true crime documentaries and things like that. But the other movies, they don't include this because the other movies just don't care, And a lot of the other movies, like the fact that in Tarantino's movie, they're standing around the piano. When they come back from the restaurant, they're standing around the piano, and Abigail Folger is playing the piano. And, the song she's playing is called Straight Shooter. Well, apparently that was the actual music on the piano in the house when, this whole thing went down. So it's like, there are these details and stuff. And I think when people find out that, except for the outcome, that Tarantino really does pepper in a lot of true facts into this, and that people do actually get more of a sense of who Sharon Tate really was and who the other people were as well. I mean, because he even devotes like minutes of, say like when Wojciech Frykowski is watching TV, it's like, yeah, he's watching TV, smoking a joint, but here's a man who, he's actually surprised at how much he feels that American TV is better than Polish TV and things like that, and all this other kind of stuff. And and just that was the thing, it's like, like I said, whenever, just to most filmmakers, like that aspect of the story is not sexy enough. It's, it's not sexy enough. It's usually, no, we need to know about Manson and his girls. We need to know about all the orgies and the sex and all the crazy stuff, the creepy crawls and all that kind of stuff, where Manson before, leading up to the murders, like Manson would kind of train his followers by taking them what they call creepy crawls, where they would go into, somebody's house while they slept, and they would go in and like rearrange the furniture and steal money and jewelry, and they would like take their food and eat it and things like that. This has been documented many of times, but one thing that you notice is that that was the surprising part, was that when it came to this movie, Tarantino says, I'm not interested in making a movie focused on Manson. There are so many movies and TV miniseries and things like that done already. He's like, but the thing is I feel like nobody really focuses on Sharon Tate or anybody else. It's always about Manson's followers. And personally, I think that's why his movie gets more of the, acclaim and everything else, because it really is a movie that's from a far more different perspective of the story than, it's like, even though like, Charlie says, it boasts that this is a really different perspective of the events. Not so much. Not really. I mean, this is stuff we've kind of all seen before. We've heard it before, stuff like that. If you're an aficionado, you follow the case, you follow the details, you read the books and everything else. It's like, so it's like something like Charlie says, not much different. Haunting of Sharon Tate. As far as like, if you're hoping to gain information from that movie, it's not going to give you any insight into, the case or any of the events that took place or any of that stuff. So it just really holds no interest. But like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like I said, like in the past, like the 2004 remake of Helter Skelter you know, did kind of hint at some of the things about Sharon Tate and her life and everything, as well as the Helter Skelter murders film. Usually it's never about them. In this movie, Tarantino's like, I'm more interested in these people. And that's the thing, and like that's the thing. Like that's a lot of people don't know much about. I mean, they know all this stuff about Manson and his followers because that's been, they've gone through that part of the story with a fine tooth comb, and they've gone through the prosecution, they've gone through the trials and everything else. But what like a lot of people don't know is, and Tarantino shows it in his movie, is that there's a scene where Sharon Tate, she's driving, and she's going to a bookstore. She's going to pick up the book Tess for her husband, which, fun fact, Roman Polanski did make a movie based on the book Tess with Natasha Kinski. I can't tell you honestly if how true it is that she recommended the book for him to read. I can't tell you that much, but but at the same time though, it's like, we find out that, she stops to give a hippie girl a ride in her car. She's driving in her beautiful brand new sports car and everything, and she stops to give this hippie girl a ride. And that was like one of the things that like a lot of people never knew about Sharon Tate was that even though like it was said, like Roman Polanski said it and Deborah Tate has said it and everything, that's like something that a lot of people miss out on, was the fact that Sharon Tate was a very kind and very warm-hearted person, and she was not against, she knew what it was like to be down on her luck and needing help and stuff. So she was not against helping people, but, to the people who want to exploit the story, that's not the fun part. That's not the interesting part to them, But also too, it's like one thing a lot of people didn't know. I'm sure probably still a lot of people don't know is that, do a lot of people really know about Abigail Folger? Do a lot of people know that, like for instance, that, she was, she was heiress to the Folger coffee fortune, and that she made, she came from a family of money, she came from wealth and privilege and everything else. But did a lot of people know that this woman invested a lot of her time helping people who were nowhere near as fortunate as she was? She helped at like clinics and things like that. She donated a lot of her time trying to help people who didn't have the same luxuries in life that she did. A lot of people don't know that about her, And it's like, okay, let's talk about Rosemary LaBianca, for example. Let's talk about how she, this was a woman who, she was a hard worker, and, she married Lino LaBianca. They loved each other and everything else. But here's the thing, it's like, it's rumored, well, I don't think it's rumored, I think it's pretty much been proven that pretty much Rosemary LaBianca was probably the richest, most wealthiest person in this whole scenario, because she was worth lots of money when she died. She was very smart, very business conscious. She knew how to invest her money wisely and things like that. But see, these are things nobody really knows. Nobody really talks about. Because everybody just wants to focus on, Manson and the orgies and the hot chicks and this and that and everything else. And that's kind of the thing. That's why I think this movie kind of stands out, is because Tarantino's like not looking at it from that point of view, like so many other filmmakers would rather do. He's all like, no, what about Sharon? What about, Jay? And it's explained that, in this movie, it's explained, by, Damian Lewis playing Steve McQueen, that, he gives a little backstory that they were together, but she went to make the movie Fearless Vampire Killers with Roman Polanski, and that they fell in love and they got married. But Jay, loved Sharon and he wanted to marry her and everything else. And that's like a thing though, too. It's like, does anybody talk about that? That the fact that, if you know any of the facts of the true story, that, that Jay Sebring was actually like, he died trying to protect Sharon Tate, that he loved her that much, that he was actually a good man with a good heart, and he was more worried about her safety and her well-being than he was his own. No, nobody's going to talk about that, So that's just kind of the thing. And I think, honestly, that's why Tarantino's movie emerges as why. I think people kind of start to realize, like, the whole Manson thing, after a while, it's like, I think this movie kind of really appeals much to a lot of the people who have, like, they've seen all the movies, they've heard all the stories, and this really is a more fresh perspective for them, because it's more about Sharon, it's more about, the victims. I hate to keep using the word victims, but that's what they were, unfortunately. And you know, it's like, and everybody's always like, oh, poor Manson and his followers. Oh, poor Susan Atkins. Poor Leslie Van Houten. Poor Patricia Krenwinkel. Poor. All these poor people. Oh, they got it so bad and everything else. It's like the focus is always on them. And it's like, you know, and I think that's why, you know, personally, that's just my opinion. I think that's why Tarantino's movie is considered the best. That's why his gets all the acclaim. That's why, like Charlie says, personally, I think that everybody's just at the point, like, we already know the stories about these women. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter anymore. It's like, yeah, they were, you know, it's like, these women, yeah, they admitted that they were, you know, manipulated by Manson. They admitted that he brainwashed them, but at the same time, they admitted that they knew what they were doing. They knew that when they go to kill these people, they knew these people were going to die. They knew bad stuff was going to go down. They accepted it. They did it of their own. They admitted that they did it of their own free will. So everybody just kind of gets tired of, you know, I think that's it. After a while, everybody just kind of gets tired of, you know, let's keep feeling sorry for these women. And I think personally, that's why, like Charlie says, I think that's why that movie just kind of flew under the radar, and just a lot of people don't. Do a lot of people even know about it? I'm not even sure if they do, to be honest with you. And that's why, like, you know, as far as like Haunting of Sharon Tate, you know, I think that's why this movie came out and just, you know, it just got met with such, it was trashed by everybody who saw it, just about. Hardly anybody liked that movie. And that's a lot of the reason why. It's just exploitation for exploitation's sake. And Tarantino's movie, while his movie, you know, that's the thing. The movie is called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he even admits that the movie is fake. I mean, the title tells you it's a fairy tale version of the events that went down. Unfortunately, we all know it doesn't go down like it does in this movie. You know, if you know the facts, you know that's not the way it happened. But just the fact that you know, Tarantino seemed like he put more. Yeah, he changed that one element of it, but he tried to put way more into his movie, and it just seems like he was kind of. It's just funny for a man who made a movie that was not a feminist take on it. He made a movie that was way more pro-female in the way that it depicts Sharon Tate and depicts like Abigail Folger and things like that. These are women that you want to, you know, these are women that you want to support. If you're going to be feminist, you're going to want to support women like these, not Susan Atkins, not, you know, Patricia Krenwinkel or Leslie Van Houten. You know, you're going to want to, you know, because, you know, like Sharon Tate, you know, she had no problems helping. She was rich. She had money. She had no problems helping people who, you know, who didn't have the wealth and privilege she did. Same thing with Abigail Folger. Sharon Tate, you know, she was, you know, she couldn't wait to be a mom. I mean, so many women can relate to that. And, you know, men can relate to that too. Men know that, you know, they know their wives or their girlfriends are really excited when they're going to have a baby and stuff. They relate to it. So, but it's just after a while, it's just, you know, I think everybody just kind of, that's just my personal opinion. I think that's why everybody just kind of gets tired of the whole, you know, why is it always from the perspective of his Manson, his followers? That angle's been done to death. And to finally see a movie where it's like Manson has very little involvement. I mean, you know, Damon Harriman, who plays Manson in this movie, he's in the movie, if anything, for maybe like 3 minutes. That's it. I mean, Manson really has no place in this movie, really. It's mostly about the other people, which I think that's an interesting take on it. And ultimately, I think that's why, out of the 3 movies that came out last year, I think that's why ultimately Tarantino's movie emerged as the best one. Not just because it was Quentin Tarantino, I think just because everybody just liked his approach to the material. It was, even though it wasn't entirely new, it felt way more, you know, it felt way more authentic than any of the other films were trying to approach it. And so anyway, that's pretty much about it. Yeah, I think I've said just about everything I need to say. So 3 videos is all amounting to about an hour long. So if any, you know, I can't believe all you guys are being so good to watch all this, but if you did, I thank you for it, and I appreciate you for it. Hopefully you enjoyed these videos. Hopefully I entertained you, kept you interested. If you did, you know, please like. If you haven't already, go ahead and please subscribe. And this is it. Again, everybody, like I said, I'll get back to the haul videos very soon, just as soon as I get some stuff in to show and get some codes in for everybody. Anyway, yeah, this is pretty much going to do it. And everybody take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and, you know, stay safe, stay healthy, and everybody have a good night. Bye-bye.